firmly opposed to the Akatsuki, yet can the Akatsuki defeat the Espada? You're about to discover that I will conduct 1v1 matches, so you people can have an idea of how I think this battle would go down. On the specific matchups, I desired to discuss what tier in general attacks are coming from both groups, that is, strength, resilience, and speed, but they all often scale to the same value, which I am about to present. To begin, each Espada, at the very least, should at least be able to climb above Ichigo in the Soul Society arc. My explanation of this simple, because Yami outperforms post-Soul Society Ichigo, who is essentially the weakest Espada in his typical condition, and the same Ichigo carelessly blocked the Firebird, which Aizen claimed would destroy a society. This attack should surface at roughly 38.94 TNT, or sufficient energy to demolish a country, as this may appear somewhat unsteady because Ichigo can chop off Yami's fingers with Zangetsu playing around with him at that time. So, though not at his best right now, Ichigo is eventually freed from the nerf he receives. Still, he later gets attacked by Arrancars 103 and is compelled to employ his Bonkai. However, this Arrancars is able to keep up, which, keep in mind, he is insignificant in light of the present 10 Espada. Having the ability to follow a Bonkai Ichigo would imply, at the very least, he would go beyond the calculation I simply offered, but this is more than 10 times. Due to Bonkai's tenfold increase, it's fairly reliable. Given that each Espada has a Grand Ray Zero capable of obliterating Los Noches, they are just not allowed to do it, which range from continental to multi-continental. Further, I wanted to express that I firmly believe this is something they can do, and the only rationale behind its absence is disputed. Since they are prohibited, it is also strongly implied that they can do it. Since Zeros evaporate objects, these numbers shouldn't be taken at face value alone. I don't think there is a contradiction here. Therefore, should you wish to make corrections in the comments, please feel free to reply. This can be much more advanced when it comes to people who are either above or on Ukiura's level, able to idly produce adequate energy to demolish a continent, and that much is known. The first resurrection of Ukiura is 10 times greater than his initial form, and with Grand Ray Zero can potentially destroy several continents, at which point he can boost his power 10 times over again with his second resurrection. And we are aware that this implies the existence of the 3 last Espada that would scale even higher from him. He has no motive to lie, because, well, he is Ukiura. I think Bleach characters should have a strong sense of speed, since fodder characters can respond to light, and we witness figures such as Renji when battling Ichigo once again, growing to 5 times more powerful, defeating him with his acquired Bonkai, which I've previously proven to be a 10 times multiplier. Then he obtains the Hollow Mask Amplifier, which is 10 times more than that. And these are its main points. Characters ought to arrive on the scene. At the lowest end FTL, while the upper end Espada is massively faster than light. Not to mention Uryu blitzes his own Shadow Pre-Soul Society arc, which calculates to half the speed of light. So the abilities that we should consider are Espada's Baragon Synesis, which not only causes everything to slow down approaching him, however, if you enter interaction with Baragon, he can age anything quickly, even captains who outlive thousands of years. He turns pretty much any member of Akatsuki that approaches him into dust. Number 8, with preparation time, can neutralize attacks, and even without preparation, and while in his resurrected state, possesses essentially voodoo and can strike particular organs. Stark can spam ranged blasts and wolves, and that would put the Akatsuki in a stressful position, even when they attempt to scatter them. Ukiura and Neutra has the ability to regrow limbs. Zamari might be able to control the adversaries by striking them with his gaze. And typically speaking, that's all the notable hacks for the Espada aside from the evidently fundamental soul manipulation in addition to dimensional travel. Nearly every character in Bleach has in addition to their ability to fly, which just around 3 individuals can in the Akatsuki. Regarding the Akatsuki, unfortunately, they are not as straightforward to scale up. However, the Akatsuki, in terms of scaling, can be noted at country-level range. Orochimaru claimed to be capable of demolishing a small country. Deidara also showing feats within that level of range by essentially nuking himself. The problem with this is that not all of the Akatsuki are able to withstand this blow, and this action effectively ends Deidara's life. Thus, I'll be kind and provide every member a little above that tiny nation rank of strength in spite of characters most likely losing to Orochimaru. But once more, I'm offering them the advantage of the uncertainty regarding several of the upper thirds of the Akatsuki, similar to Pain, as we are aware. In that sense, Chibaku Tensei enters the continental power range, which regrettably corresponds to just two characters, being Pain himself and I suppose Tobi. In my opinion, none of the Akatsuki can simply destroy a Chibaku Tensei straight, so the weaker members are most likely at the level of that tiny nation's power range, and for the highest levels, they are either a sizable nation or continental. In terms of speed, they're all light speed, as characters such as Darui, Haku, Killer Bee, and Itachi have claims of having attacks at light speed, and figures like Obito and Pain are possibly MFTL range due to their fights with heightened Naruto variations that would be multiplying his strength tens of times. For those who might have an opinion, how about Itachi? Well, the Itachi version that we are utilizing is the person in Akatsuki who is actually very ill. Given the hacks, we currently have practically any path of Pain that can resurrect steel souls, see almost everything, use gravity manipulation with Chibaku Tensei, and have the innate ability to push and pull adversaries. As for the other participants, such as Kakuzu and Deidara, they are home to insane elemental and ranged assaults, in particular by Deidara, may carry out cellular attacks on individuals. Sasori has a poison that kills instantly with his incapacitating iron sand and has access to more than 100 puppets available to him. Kisame's body of water takes in and absorbs energy. Genjutsu and precognition of Itachi. Tobi has intangibility, and Konan, who you know, has paper bombs. For the overall matchups, I have chosen to have Zetsu versus Aroniero, Xyalaporo versus Orochimaru, Yami versus Kakuzu, Zamari versus Sasori, Noitra versus Konan, Hybil versus Kisame, Grimmjow versus Deidara, Baragon versus Itachi, Pain versus Ulquiorra, and finally, Stark versus Tobi. The first will be Aroniero versus Zetsu. Zetsu truly has no fighting skills. Therefore, he likely passes away. Next round, Xyalaporo versus Orochimaru. Since Xyalaporo has superior stats in both outhacking and stomping. But for Orochimaru, what I can see is that Orochimaru's regeneration is rather irksome, but finally, I believe he would have the ability to subdue him. The best scale that Orochimaru can have is accepting a claim at face value that Xyalaporo scales more than 10 times. Next, we have Yami versus Kakuzu. Kakuzu's best scaling would only entail his survival of a Biju blast from the two tails. Using that scaling as a starting point, say the Kakuzu can completely survive a nation-level explosion. Even then, he's still even 100 times weaker than Yami. Without changing, therefore, in his maximum strength, he simply folds him. Sasori would never be able to touch Zamari. He would just control him or break his heart outright, and even though he wouldn't be aware at first of Sasori's abilities, he would probably figure it out since he would basically perceive the battle in slow motion. Zamari wins due to unequal stats. Noitra takes on Konan in this matchup, and Konan has virtually no prep time, so it's likely that she passes away. Coming next, we have Halibel against Kisame. Halibel, who can boil and freeze the water that she's battling him in and have the ability to tenfold increase her power as well. Kisame, trying to take in her power, would go straight after his soul, which he regrettably lacks resistance to. So, Kisame loses. Next up is Grimmjow versus Deidara, and this match is completely amusement since these two are the largest slanderers in their corresponding group. Regrettably, for even so, Deidara's best course of action is suicide, which, strangely, Grimmjow can endure unfazed. As for the following, we currently have Baragon versus Itachi. Itachi, as I previously stated, is sick and weak. Baragon is clearly the winner. Who strikes whom first in the upcoming match? The battle of top-tier villains is coming up. Ulquiorra versus Pain, my apologies. But Pain, at best, your attack is in proportion to a casual blast from Ulquiorra's second release that is severely damaging, and using the Grand Ray Zero in addition to the multipliers of Ulquiorra via his resurrections, he ought to have several times the energy required to just burn the Chibaku Tensei to ashes. Our final matchup pits Stark against Tobi. Tobi's matchup may have easily triumphed with Genjutsu, but Tobi in character does not utilize it in his orange mask. The primary ones that use Genjutsu are white and yellow masks. Obito can depend on this, but Tobi depends on never being struck and utilizing Kamui, which sadly does not function on Stark since all Bleach characters are able to cross over into other dimensions, so it won't work to attempt to Kamui him away. So all in all, the Espada pretty much wins low to mid difficulty. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe to our channel. We're closing in on 1,000 subscribers. Thank you for watching and make sure to check out my previous video. Until next time, peace.